My life is good. R.I.P was hood. I might get to it. Not out the woods, so bro, I got to do it. Be a monster. That's why my mantra.
Let's talk about NXT. Solid show on September the 17th, 2024. This is 3Con Commentaries. I am MagMongoSlade. Let us get right into it. News and notes. Well, they announced, I forget when it was over the weekend of September, so maybe the 13th, 14th, or 15th, where they announced that NXT's show from St. Louis was moving from one arena to a smaller arena. Apparently, the ticket sales were kind of soft. The only thing that they announced for the show was Randy Orton. They literally didn't announce anything else. They didn't even announce that Randy Orton was wrestling on that show until now. So people thought, oh, okay, so you're going to load up the Chicago show, and then we just going to, sit on our hands for St. Louis? They put almost no effort into the St. Louis show, so the tickets didn't do so well. This led to the AEW fans doing cartwheels, laughing. Meanwhile, Dynamite looks like a public library every damn week, and it's just wide open spaces all over the place. And I really wish they wouldn't compare your main show to the developmental product. Because I'm looking at Collision, and it's as barren as an abandoned playground every week. And the ratings are getting worse and worse. I mean, literally, bro, there is more bottles of baby oil in Diddy's residence than there were people in a Collision taping. I mean, it's an embarrassment. Absolute embarrassment. They have no room to make fun of NXT for having to move buildings. If anything, AEW needs to just humble themselves and do the same. And I don't mean they need to just do it for Rampage and Collision. They need to do it for Dynamite. All right? You need to put it in a smaller building. It'll look nicer. Okay. So the next thing is, it was actually announced on the show that Sexy Red is going to be coming back to NXT, and she will also be on the Chicago show. What is the WWE's new obsession with Ratchet? I don't understand it. Look, it was funny the first couple of times they had Sexy Red on NXT. I don't see how she can help matters now. But they want to have some kind of celebrity involvement. She ain't doing nothing because she also having trouble selling tickets. So NXT's having trouble selling tickets. Sexy Red can't sell any tickets. Let's just put it all together. They canceled her entire damn tour because she can't sell any tickets. So she got plenty of free time. She got nothing to do. So here it is. But I guess it kind of makes sense, that she did bring a bump in interest for when she was involved, so it makes sense for her to show up. The CW used to be the WB, so there was niggers on that channel. But why they choose a Sexy Red song to be I'm not saying it would have been better at Megan Thee Stallion, but why not give Sexy Red that look, considering she was already a part of the universe? But I guess we'll talk about that some other time. Anyway, let's get to the beginning of this show. Ava. She's trying to get this contract signed between Ethan Page and Trick Williams. Ethan Page claims to be Trick Williams' kryptonite. Trick Williams claims that Ethan Page been running from him. Ethan Page says that he earned this title. He worked for the title. And he remembers the shock on everybody's face when he won it. And that nobody believed in him, but he believed in himself. This led, of course, to a scuffle, and Trick Williams ended up going through the table because Ethan Page got the one up on him. I was surprised by that. So the rest of the night has been filled with Ava trying to get this contract signed, even though it wasn't shown to be any kind of problem. I mean, Trick Williams was perfectly fine after getting put through a table. Ethan Page disappeared for a short amount of time. A basketball player showed up, and he was like, hey, I'll do it, awkwardly. And so at the end of the show, he talks both of them into signing the contract. He just says, hey, You my guy, sign this. Hey, you my guy, sign this. Oh yeah, the Orlando Magic suck. I have no idea who this basketball player is. I can just tell Nick Khan's hands are on the product because you open your box of Frosted Flakes and then all of a sudden there's Apple Jacks in it. And you're like, what are these? Look, Apple Jacks are fine, but they belong in the Apple Jack box. Why are they in my box of Frosted Flakes? And Nick Khan just keeps doing that. You get a little surprise every week. Hey, he's going to drop random basketball player on your episode of NXT. I'm like, what? Are you assuming that I like basketball? Is it because I'm black? Is Nick Khan stereotyping me? And then the crazy thing is, the guy was sent out there as a babyface and he kept getting booed. The fans kept booing him. They don't like tall, awkward guy. And then all the rest of the tall, awkward guys is in the crowd standing up like, yeah. And everybody's like, what? Boo all of you dudes. I don't know the history of the Orlando Magic and the Indiana Pacers. I don't know enough about ball in order for... I wasn't a foosball guy. I was a football guy. I wasn't really a basketball guy. You know? I was a Pistons fan growing up. When the Pistons started losing, I stopped watching. So I can't tell you nothing about basketball. So I have no idea who this kid is. Anyway, Ethan Page and Trick Williams signed the contract. Later, CM Punk came out and announced that he is going to be the special guest referee for this match. And his only rule is listen to the official. So basically, this match is going to be no holds barred, essentially. And I like that. It was a good usage of CM Punk on the show. Hopefully he won't take away too much from the show and get real Seth Rollins-y and start interacting with the boys too much. They just kind of need to use his star power a little bit. Maybe build up a little tension between him and Ethan, because that's where it should be. But not have Punk overdo things. And hopefully Punk doesn't touch anybody, because I hate that. So I love it. I love the idea of CM Punk being a special guest referee. I do think special guest referees are being used a little too often, because we really just saw this. But on this very special occasion, I'm going to give it a pass. You can go ahead and do it. All right, so now my favorite story of the week. I got to tell you, at first I didn't like this, but by the time it was over, my heart was warm. I had a smile on my face, and I said, this is really good shit. Tony D'Angelo is backstage, and he is really upset with Hammerstone. And he told Hammerstone, look, I paid you. You need to go finish the job. You need to go to Ava and get a rematch. Hammerstone was like, look, man, Oba's a badass. I ain't messing with that dude no more. And so Tony D'Angelo was like, but I paid you. And Hammerstone was like, look, why don't you just take him out yourself? And Tony D'Angelo was like, wait a minute. Why don't I just take you out? And I was like, yeah, why don't you just take him out? So they booked the match. Hammerstone, Tony D'Angelo. Tony D'Angelo is looking a little tepid out there. He's looking a little anxious. So he gets in there, he gets thrown around a little bit by Hammerstone. And then he just saunters off. He just walks off. He's looking distraught. His feelings are, he's down in the dumps. He just walks off. Count out. Hammerstone wins his first match on NXT by count out, because Tony D'Angelo essentially quit. So the family is confused. Everybody's confused. Everybody's taken aback by this. They're like, what is going on around here? So backstage, Tony D'Angelo meets up with the fam again, and they're like, look, we need to go take care of Hammerstone. And Tony D'Angelo's like, yeah, forget him. And he's like, well, let's go take care of Oba Femi. He's like, yeah, forget him too. And so the fans was like, okay, well, are you injured? Are you hurt? He's like, nah, I'm fine. They're like, well, nah, this can't be. You can't be okay, and you don't want to go take care of business. And so they poke and they prod until eventually Tony D'Angelo admits that he's afraid. He says, I'm afraid, okay? I'm scared. That Obafemi's a machine, is a monster. I don't think I can beat him. And he walks off again, and everybody's standing there like, what the hell are we experiencing here? This guy just said he can't win. He's going to murderize him. So, later in the show, Adriana Rizzo has what is probably the best moment that she has ever had as a character on this show. As she goes, just the two of them, her and Tony D'Angelo, and they're just, the two of them, they're having a heart-to-heart. And she admits to sometimes being scared too. And Tony D'Angelo's like, look, man, you got disrespected. The family got disrespected. But I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can push through this. And Rizzo says, look, we'll always be here for you. You know, but Luca believes in you. Stax believes in you. I believe in you. You need to go and fight Obafemi. And I know you don't believe what you're saying. You want to fight Obafemi. And he says, I do. And she says, well, why don't you go do it? He says, what if I lose? And she's like, but if you lose, at least you faced your fears. At least you lost through the fear. You have to believe in you. And with that accent, even though the accent is really bad, the sentiment there, I thought this was some of the best storytelling they've done in NXT in a long time. This is where you get that concept of toxic masculinity and you start tweaking with it a little bit. Because you have a character, an openly masculine leader type character, and Tony D'Angelo coming out and saying that he's scared of an opponent, which should instantly kill any and all credibility that he has. That should have been it. That should have been death. And that's what I was prepared for. I was prepared for, oh, they're killing this character now. They ripping this guy apart. But at the end, it was really about showing that the family is a family. That they're not just a ragtag group of thugs held together by money or power, but they are what they have always been portrayed as on television. That they grew up together. So they can have these heart-to-hearts. At least that was the story we were given, that, you know, Rizzo grew up with Stax and Tony D. They can have these heart-to-hearts. They can admit to each other about being afraid and overcoming their fears. And because it didn't last too long, I felt okay about this. I felt good about this. I felt like this really opened up a different level of the Tony D'Angelo character. Like, he could not find a way to beat Obafemi. He couldn't beat him himself. He also couldn't find a mercenary to do it. So he's like, I'm out of options. And they were like, no, you got to keep trying. You can't just give up because, you know, you can't black bag him. You can't put him in a trunk. And you can't, you know, beat him in a fist fight. You got to try something else. And I thought it was really good for the Tony D'Angelo character. You know, admitting that you're afraid, but then overcoming that fear, that's very good. I wonder when they're going to have the rematch, because they got to have the rematch now, and I guess he has to win the rematch. On social media, it was announced that Obafemi is close to being the longest reigning North American champion of all time, and he should pass the record. So, however long it is that Tony D'Angelo needs to wait, I would have him wait that long, but then I will ultimately have Tony D win the belt. I think now that he's admitted that he was afraid, he's got to win it. You don't have any choice now. So, that's the story. That's the sympathy behind Tony D'Angelo now. And it's very difficult to make a mob boss sympathetic. But a guy who comes out and admits that he's scared, but he's going to fight this guy anyway, yeah, that takes balls. I like that. Lyra Valkyria and Tatum Paxley defeat Rosemary and Wendy Choo. Okay, this was fine, I guess. Wendy Choo wrestled Jordan Grace at the Victory Road show of the TNA show. The match was actually pretty solid. I got nothing out of the Rosemary Wendy Chu partnership. They kind of had a video about why they're partners, but I completely forgot why they're partners. I don't remember. So, well, we'll have to come back to it when we come back to it. Javon Evans, him and Cedric Alexander, walked up to Ava and said they wanted to shoot their shot for St. Louis. And I thought they wanted a tag team match, but it turns out Javon Evans was basically just asking for himself. And he's going to end up wrestling Randy Orton. So now they announced that Randy Orton is wrestling on this show, on the St. Louis NXT. And he's going to be wrestling Javon Evans. Holy cow. They really think a lot of this kid if they're going to have him wrestle Randy Orton. And he's about to have the safest match he's ever had before. And he's going to lose, of course. But this match is going to be them trying to see if Javon Evans can be taught to work a slower, safer style. And if he can change his style just a little bit, he might end up getting the rocket strapped to his back. This is going to be a very interesting match for Javon. The guy is not even 20. And so him getting this match with Randy is huge. And obviously he's just going to be on the sizzle reel of RKOs, but hey, it's better than nothing. you get the match and it's better than nothing. So Javon Evans and Cedric Alexander, they wrestled in No Quarter Cash Crew. So Tavion Heights is back, and Charlie Dempsey is like, okay, you made a name for yourself in Japan, and I made a name up for myself with this cup. It's time for No Quarter Cash Crew to make a name for themselves as a tag team. So he wants a tag team championship, so Tavion and Miles Borner, they're getting all psyched up for this, and then he tells Ren Sinclair she's got to make a name for herself too. You got to go out and do something. You got to go out and get attention. So Ren Sinclair takes her up the word. She goes and finds Kalani Jordan. Now Kalani Jordan is talking about, the North American title and, maybe one day having open challenges like Jordan Grace did for the Knockouts title. And so Ren Sinclair just walks up on her and says, Charlie Dempsey wants you to make a name for myself, and smacks the tar out of Kalani Jordan. Just smacked the shit right out of her. And then ran off, which made it funny, because it's very entertaining. So during this tag team match, Ren Sinclair is being chased around the ring by Kalani Jordan, and it's a distraction to Miles Bourne, and Javon Evans and Cedric Alexander actually beat No Quarter Cash Crew, so they're not off to a good start in the tag team division. But Tavion Heights is tremendous. I saw clips of his work in Japan. He was really good. Unfortunately, he comes back to the United States and he's wearing that one leg, stretched leg thing. I don't know who tells people, hey, you should have one bare leg and then one leg and a covered. I don't know who told you to do that. It's the most jobberish thing in history. Please stop doing that. Everybody. Somebody need to type it up in a memo and send it to everybody. Don't do it again, please. Next. Zachary Wentz comes out to huff and puff about some tragedy. He shows some footage of Trey Miguel getting stomped out in a parking lot. Apparently this didn't happen in the NXT parking lot. It instead happened somewhere in Ohio, where all the Haitians are eating cats and domesticated animals. I'm sorry, not necessarily cats. It might have been like iguanas or something. You never know. People split hairs on these kinds of things. He says that they would have been the tag team champions, him and Trey. They would have beat Fraxium the week before, but Wesley prevented that. Said that Wesley can't handle that him and Trey have moved on, that the Rascals have moved on without him. Wesley hasn't gotten over that Zachary Wentz beat him. He says that he's going to put him through so much pain in Chicago. And then Wesley responded by saying that Zachary Wentz only won because of Trey Miguel's interference. So what he did was he took out the insurance policy. Now it's truly one-on-one. And he's going to finish this in Chicago. And I thought, okay, that's actually not a terrible response from Wesley. It fits the story, and it explains why Trey is not likely to be there, or it would explain why Trey would show up, however they choose to do it. But Zachary Wentz lost the X Division Championship to Speedball Mike Bailey on the TNA show. Really good match between the two of them. It was probably the only match on the show worth a damn, to be quite honest. And Zachary Wentz wasn't champion very long. They must have got a heads up on the fact that he might be losing soon. So they were like, you know what, let's take this belt off of him and get rid of it. I would have liked if Wesley would have cost him the title. Like, I think that would have been a great story, but I don't know. What do I know? I don't know much about anything. Zachary Wentz, not a good promo, by the way. Not his strong suit. Not really not, but he did his best. He tried to have some real passion, but he just comes across as being angry. And I don't mean angry in a real way. I mean angry in an I'm acting angry kind of way. All right, Ashani the Adonis was defeated by DJ Tatanka Eddie Thorpe. Oh boy. Next. Ridge Holland says he's going to destroy Chase University. 2 down, 1 to go. Previously, Thea Hale talked about Ridge Holland breaking her heart and how they wanted to rehab Ridge Holland to show everybody that he is a good guy. And Riley Osborne said he hates having to say, I told you so, but he knew it from the whole time. The guy's rotten. Rotten Ridge. And he says that he's going to avenge Andre Chase. He's going to avenge Duke Hudson. And I looked at him and was like, he's like 96 pounds. Ridge Holland is going to ball him up and pitch him down the stairs. I can't wait. Can't wait. So they're going to fight next week. So there's that. So JC Jane talked about speaking the truth and upsetting people. Says that Lola Vice ain't the star that she thinks she is. Fallon Henley and Jordan Nix claim that Jada Parker is walking around looking for them, but she ain't looking hard enough. Even though she had a bat last week and they made themselves real skinny last week. They also talked about Kalani Jordan ducking them. So later, JC Jane wrestled Lola Vice. Now, Lola Vice was backstage shadow boxing because she's always shadow boxing. If she's not twerking, she's shadow boxing. I don't understand. In any event, she was preparing for her match. And they were, she and the rest of the girls in the locker room, because he's always in the locker room with the rest of the girls, jabberjawing. And she talked about Jada Parker. Jada Parker just happened to be there. And so they started getting into it about Lola Vice having Jada Parker's name in her mouth and how they both want to fight Fatal Influence, but they don't want each other's help. Lola Vice wants to do this herself, and Jada Parker's like, do it. So she goes out there, she wrestles JC Jane, and she wins. JC Jane's been around way too long to be losing to everybody. She's got to win at some point, right? Like, she's a top shelf loser. So Lola Vice wins with the spinning back fist. I'm okay with Lola Vice beating JC Jane, but damn, can she get some victories? You know, got to be some jabronis or somebody for JC Jane to beat. So after the match, of course, the Fatal Influence jumped Lola Vice. This led to Jada Parker making the save. Jada Parker did not have her bat. She was Sans bat. And her and Jasmine Nix had a little bit of a mix-up on going over the top rope. But she aggressively threw Jasmine Nix over the top rope, which, of course, made up for it. That was a great spot. Jasmine couldn't get over the top rope, but Jada did a really good job of helping her. That was a big assist. So, it was what it was. Lola Vice, she lost a lot of momentum. When they announced all these new girls coming in, Lola Vice fell off a cliff. because she was the new girl. She had the rocket strapped to her for a while there. And then it was like, oh, we signed all these new free agents. So Lola Vice, yeah, we're going to throw you backstage so you could shadow box in a corner with like Carmen Petrovich so you could go hang out with them. And I'm like, damn, she was coming along nicely. She had a nice little character. She was doing everything right. And now she's kind of like a middling baby face. Unfortunate. I like Lola Vice. So Brooks Jensen defeated Deion Lennox. Sean Spears was in the corner of Brooks Jensen. Look, this thing is marred by Sean Spears being involved. It's like seeing something that might, well, it's not that interesting because old Sawmill Jensen is involved. So it wasn't going to be that great anyway. But I wanted to see what Deion Lennox had, like in the tank, because I didn't watch Level Up, and I don't watch Level Up. I just can't watch all the wrestling now. Come on, bro. So, but he seemed to be okay. Brooks Jensen mocked him by putting his glasses on, which led to a comical power-up from Deion Lennox, but it didn't come across as being real. It came across as being like, this is what I'm supposed to do because I'm a wrestler. But he's new. Let him work on it. Who cares? Grayson Waller and Austin Theory challenged Fraxium to the tag team championships. It was already accepted, but they were going to set up a Grayson Waller effect where they were going to talk them into it. So Grayson Waller didn't think they would accept. They did, but they're going to have the Grayson Waller effect anyway. And apparently they're going to do this match at the St. Louis show. I think, is this booked for the St. Louis show or is this booked for the show before that? It was one or the other. No, it's not the Chicago show. The Chicago shows before that. I think it might be the NXT before the launch. I think it's either the last episode of NXT before they moved to CW, or it's the the St. Louis show. Either way, A-Town Down Under, Grayson Waller and Austin Theory is going to be around for 3 more weeks at the very least. So enjoy it while it lasts. There's a clip of Austin Theory selling stunners on social media, and the vile dislike that people have for Austin Theory is palpable. I mean, it's so palpable. Typically, if somebody takes a stunner and then just turns themselves into a Roman candle and leaps into the air, everybody loves it. But when it's Austin Theory, they're like, oh, he's so insufferable. I hate him so much. It's like, oh, God, what the hell did he do? Like, did he bag your girlfriend? I don't understand. I don't think you have a girlfriend for him to bag. And then I think if you had one, he wouldn't want her. But, hey, I don't know. I don't have all the answers to these questions. All right. So, I talked about most things. Now it's time to talk about CM Punk. Because CM Punk made an appearance on this show. He came out, talked about how much he loves him some NXT. Says he watched the show, came down to the show while he was doing rehab. Says he enjoys watching the talent develop, and he does a little bit of scouting because sometimes, eventually, he's going to have to face some of these guys. Says he wanted to be a part of NXT in Chicago, and Shawn Michaels said he can do whatever he wants. And of course, we know he wants to be the special guest referee, but he's interrupted by Roxanne Perez. And Roxanne Perez saunters out there, and she starts trying to cut a great promo, but her voice is kind of cracking, and she's very nervous. And she's still kind of blushing about how CM Punk is her all-time favorite wrestler, an inspiration to her. And says that he was the voice of the voiceless. He was her voice. But she did always prefer AJ. So the AJ gets a huge pop and a huge chant. Everybody loves AJ. She's refusing to come back, but everybody likes AJ. And then Roxanne Perez talks about how she was very happy to see him return at Survivor Series. But then she realized that she should have been a Drew McIntyre fan, which was a great turn. That was a great turn. She says that CM Punk is just there to get one last rub before Drew McIntyre ends his career. And that Chicago is going to be her town once she beats Julia. CM Punk appreciates the balls on Roxanne to come out there and be overconfident. Said that he also had a chip on his shoulder, and the chip that was on his shoulder was as big as Roxanne. And he says, but the chip made him the best in the world, and her chip on her shoulder makes her the best in the world. And he says he watched Io Sky and Bianca Belair on Monday Night Raw and said, you know who could fit in with them, who might even be better than them? Roxanne. And says, but none of that's going to matter when Julia beats her for the title. So then Julia comes out there, says that Roxanne's got 2 weeks left. Roxanne then tries to throw a sucker punch, but CM Punk blocks it, and he holds them apart. I thought it was a really solid promo. It's the best I think Roxanne Perez has been able to put together. Of course, there's questions about whether you can believe it because she's such a super fan that she's getting to do something with him. But I think because she's a super fan, that's what makes it so entertaining, that she's saying, oh, I should have been a Drew McIntyre fan, you know? And also you could tell that she also really doesn't believe it. Like, she probably didn't even notice Drew McIntyre existed. But I like this segment. CM Punk doing a great segment. Julia's English is not her strong suit, but it's clear enough. And doing a good job of putting Roxanne over, putting Julia over, you know, giving Roxanne some really great real estate to work with. It's the 9 o'clock hour and CM Punk's in the ring. And then you bring Roxanne Perez out there. Then you have CM Punk put her on a pedestal, saying she is as good as Bianca and Io. This was a really strong segment to make Roxanne a really strong champion. This is why I think that this should be the main event of the St. Louis show rather than probably the first match on the Chicago show. I think that these girls have earned that Roxanne has earned to have the show built around her match and what she's doing. I get that business dictates that you put everything on one show. And that Chicago show was stuffed. I mean, there's street fights and 2 title matches and special guest referees and celebrity guests and a bunch of shit. They didn't even bother to spread none of this stuff out. They want everything on the Chicago show. They want the launch to be successful. They don't care if it's not, if it goes from 800,000 to 400,000 in 2 weeks. They don't give a shit. Now, I did see Dave Meltzer talk about that in terms of what the expectations would be for CW. And understand, even if NXT's ratings don't change and it's still 600,000, 700,000 people every week, that'll still be far greater than anything else that's on the CW. And that's sad. But I would imagine Meltzer says basically they're going to be looking to get 1 million on the first episode, which the way that they're loading it up, I can actually buy that. And I don't necessarily buy everything Meltzer says, but they're putting CM Punk and Sexy Red on the first episode. They're really trying to get a strong, right out of the box rating. So, but why not? You could spread some of that stuff out a little bit, but I think it's going to rest at about 650. So about a month or two, it'll go right back to the numbers that they're doing now. So they may get 1 million viewers for the first show, but I don't think it's going to stay that way. No booking of a wrestling show is that consistent that it's going to stay at that point forever. But because you're not going to have those celebrities and CM Punk and stuff every week, so it's not definitely going to go down the next week. But I think that the expectations realistically are the numbers that they're doing right now, and that's worth money to CW because they got nothing else. What else is getting TV ratings the way NXT does? Nothing. So this episode of NXT was solid. It was fun, and I enjoyed it. Typical. But let me know what you guys think. And I'll talk to you guys later.
No one does it better.